All right, looks like we've got Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, March 4th, 2024, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Reed?
Here.
Councilor Hessman?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Starr?
Here.
Councilor Dran?
Here.
Councilor Cross?
Here.
Youth Councilor Woodard?
Here.
All right, thank you very much. If you are able, I invite you to stand and all join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, tonight we get to lead off with special orders of business, and it is always a very special occasion that we all celebrate when we are able to swear in a new police officer for the city of Keizer. And this is for Jesse White, and I see many of our Keizer police, family and friends are here to celebrate this occasion. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and city councilors. I want to introduce to you Jesse White. So as he stands there awkwardly in front of you, and I get to talk about him for a few minutes before we swear him in. Jesse is he's a jewel and a gem for us, and we are super happy to have him. He grew up here in Keizer, went to Keizer Elementary, then to Claggett Creek Middle School, and then to McNary. I played some football, did some wrestling, was even in the theater for a year. He said he couldn't sing super well, so that was one and done. And then he joined us early on as a cadet, and he was with us as a cadet until he aged out. You can only be 21 as a cadet. Other than that, you become a reserve officer. Well, after he aged out as a cadet, he did some wildland firefighting, which sounds pretty exciting. And then we did steal him from working security at Salem Hospital. So if you don't know about that job, working down at the Salem Hospital, he has encountered many interesting folks. Which really prepared him for this job. So, I mean, he's really patient, he's kind, and as you guys know, we've talked about it before, several years ago, we changed kind of how we hire, and we decided to hire real good humans, and then we can train them how to be cops. And Jesse rose to the top in that last hiring process, and we're super happy to have him and his family. Thank you for being here. It's a journey, as you guys know. It's not Jesse doing it alone. It's the strength of the family that can make it through a career, for sure. And so he will rely on your strength and your patience and your never-ending love as he comes home, and he's going to have a lifetime of stories to tell, as these folks back there on the wall do already, of things that you would never imagine could happen in Keizer. You're like, this is Keizer. How does that happen here? He'll tell you. He'll have the stories. So congratulations, Jesse. I'm super proud that you're here tonight and getting sworn in from the city.
All right.
I have a little mic so I can come up here. Hopefully it doesn't feedback too much. Oh boy. I might have to do some other kind.
There's a live microphone near you. That's probably what it's feeding off of, and that's the one in front of you.
Can you hear that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. Let's try this. Jesse White, right? So I, repeat after me, please. I, Jesse White, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution. I apologize.
If we can turn that off, we can turn on the mic there.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. The Constitution of the State of Oregon. Okay. And the laws thereof. and the laws and ordinances of the City of Keizer,
and the laws and ordinances of the City of Keizer,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of police officer
of police officer
in and for the City of Keizer,
in and for the City of Keizer,
County of Marion,
County of Marion,
State of Oregon,
State of Oregon,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Nice job.
Congratulations, welcome aboard. Yeah. I was going to say, Officer White, if you want to bring up family members for a photo, you are welcome to do so. It's your choice, of course, and then we all know that public service, especially for public safety, is a family commitment. So we want to honor and thank your family for joining you in your career. My asthma's kicking my ass. My asthma's kicking my ass. Somebody wore something scented. And I just got a sniffle on the way in.
Okay, are you happy to be here? Yes.
You should pop the picture.
Beautiful. Great, thank you, beautiful.
Well, when we talk about grow your own pride, spirit, and volunteerism, I think Officer White's journey really tells the tale. And I'm so proud that he joins others in our police department that were born and raised here in Keizer and have chosen to serve Keizer in this capacity. So again, congratulations to Officer White. Continuing on with this evening's special orders of business, it is my pleasure to see Stephanie Cross, are you here from Community Diversity Engagement? I don't see her. We are going to be proclaiming for the month of March, Women's History Month. And I will read the proclamation as follows and invite up the women leaders here in this room, which is, I'm looking at pretty much all y'all, to come and join us for a photograph and also to celebrate the achievements of women in the community of Keizer. Whereas in the human experience of civilization, exploration, invention, and governance, men and women have worked together, yet as noted by President Jimmy Carter, quote, "Too often the women were unsung and sometimes their contributions went unnoticed. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well," end quote. And whereas the United Nations has sponsored International Women's Day since 1975, when adopting its resolution on the observance of International Women's Day, the United Nations General Assembly cited the following reasons, quote, "To recognize the fact that securing peace and social progress and the full enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms require the active participation, equality, and development of women, and to acknowledge the contribution of women to the strengthening of international peace and security," end quote. And whereas the 2024 theme is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, to recognize women throughout the country who understand that for a positive future, we need to eliminate bias and discrimination entirely from our lives and institutions. And whereas women from every background have long realized that an uneven playing field will never bring equality or justice, and that many feel the critical need to speak up and work harder for the fairness in our institutions and social interactions. And whereas recognition, celebration, and inspiration of women's achievements promote the health, well-being, and success of women and girls worldwide. And whereas the city of Keizer recognizes that celebration of Women's History Month is part of our values of treating all people with dignity and respect. Now therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, here with the Keizer City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim March 2024 as Women's History Month and encourage all the people of Keizer to celebrate, honor, and promote the achievement of girls and women in our community, state, nation, and the world. So with that, I would like to invite up the women leaders I see here in this audience, and it's pretty much all y'all. Marlene Parsons, former City Council President, Tammy Kunz from the Greater Northeast Keizer Neighbors Association, Jacqueline Green, Greater Northeast Keizer Neighbors Association, Lisa Sajeka, Parks Board, Carolyn Holman, West Keizer Neighbors Association, Carol Dorfler, West Keizer Neighbors Association, and so much more. Rhonda Rich, West Keizer Neighbors Association, Tammy Saldivar, the chair of our Traffic Safety by PEG Committee, Peggy Moore, the Jerry and Peggy Moore Community Garden, and I don't recognize the person sitting there. Where's her? Oh, there's Marianne. Yes, Marianne Hanks, she was behind there. Marianne Sangster, leader for so many events and opportunities in this community. Melissa Bissett, our city recorder, Councilor Laura Reed, Council President Shani Starr, Councilor Sarita Cross. I would invite all of you to the front here so we can together celebrate and promote women in this community for Women's History Month. I've got to go this way.
No, goodness sakes. This is all about you all. Just get me out of the shot.
This man has just rearranged.
Yes, that's fine. There's a couple people down here. The meeting is all the way pretty soon.
Moving along.
Okay, we'll see everybody. Perfect.
Not that I know.
I don't want the glasses glaring off the top of my head, right?
Okay, everybody look up here. Act like you like to be here. What a good looking group. Thank you. Great.
Okay. There was, I think, five seniors, 5 juniors, so we have more formal roles, a lot of campaigning.
So the one person I didn't know was in the audience from the Northwest Keizer Neighbors Association is Krista. Thank you for being here and your leadership in our community as well. So to finish up, well, it's a big city and a small town at the same time. Not on tonight's agenda, but also under special orders of business, it is my pleasure to announce that the city of Keizer was recognized at the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments annual meeting and awards banquet this last week, the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments 2023 Regional Cooperative Project Award for our participation in and cooperation with Chariots, the City of Salem, and the Salem Keizer Public Schools for the Youth Zero Pass Program. This program was to restart the opportunity for our youth and 18 and under to be able to ride chariots for no cost. Years ago, there was another program called the Betsy Program, which is the Business Energy Tax Credit that funded that same program. And it was wildly successful. When the funding ran out, the program ended. And that was not good for our youth, the families, or our community. So when we had the opportunity to participate in restarting the Youth Zero Pass program through a pilot, this council unanimously agreed, and we moved forward with putting some funds in to get it going. It was so successful, and even more so now that there's 7-day-a-week service, that it is now a permanent program for our Chariots transportation system. So thank you to the people of Keizer. Thank you to the City of Salem, Salem Keizer Public Schools for recognizing that something as basic as transportation for our youth is so important for our families and for their for the students' academic success. So this is going to be on display. Let's see if we can get that on camera. There it is. All right, so City of Keizer Cooperative Program Award. Fantastic. So that concludes special orders of business for this evening. We are going to go to committee reports, and we have some that have signed up this evening, and we are going to start with Mike de Blasi for the traffic safety report. There he is. And then Bo, you'll be on deck. Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff. So I'm here to report on the Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee. Our last meeting was on Thursday, February 15th. We started off with a continuation from the previous meeting that was on the strategic plan, and that probably took the bulk of the meeting. We went through each and every bullet point on the plan. Some highlights of comments. One was about having us address natural disasters and have some more environmentally healthy initiatives. Also, perhaps joining the City of Salem in the emergency management program. Let's see. We talked about whether the goals would be concurrent and having measurable actions on each one. And there was some concern that some of those goals were not really action points, but more broad goals. And then, let's see, perhaps changing code to get more connectivity between neighborhoods. And then there was quite a bit of talk about whether expanding the urban growth boundary is really something that we would want to do, both for the aesthetics of the community, the small town feel, as well as, the financial impacts. And then for some member updates, Hirsch, I don't want to steal his thunder, but we talked about a community bike ride event that's coming up, so I'll let him give you details on that. But also that we have, with the $1,000 that we had in our account for bike helmets, David was able to really score on getting a lot of helmets. Plus, we got 100 helmets from the Salem Health that they were getting rid of because they wanted to freshen up their stock. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the reason why we didn't have a big showing that night of the public was because we were dealing with the strategic plan. So even though it took the bulk of the meeting, there was probably not the obvious connection until you start digging into it of the strategic plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Husband?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, just a comment, since we have Mike and our chair, Madam Chair, in the audience. I do think we covered the strategic plan well, in that every member did attempt to tie it more broadly to the goals expressed in the TSBP. Some of the raison d'etre of the committee, as well as just some of the overall goals, and even to the specific projects that the committee had been seeing and members had been passionate about. So I take full responsibility for having the meeting go as long as it did. That was 100% my moderation error. But nevertheless, I am grateful for the discussion, and I think we produced a relative body of public work that's really strong, and it definitely gives me good insight to the strategic plan and ways that we can push it forward. So I'm just grateful for everybody's help in that regard.
And I wouldn't say you're responsible. I think we all kept talking, so.
Well, Mr. Dempster does have that effect on all of us, but he's not here. We can't necessarily badger him.
No, and you got all those helmets too, so.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for the good work of everybody on the committee. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So for planning, Mo Avisham.
Good evening. I am indeed Mo Avisham. I represent the Planning Commission this evening. We've been working on a number of items, including the strategic plan, specifically last month, or this month. In our last meeting, we had few representatives from the community came in to give us inputs on the feedback on the strategic plan. One was an attorney representing a resident in the who has property on the Windsor Island Road and Willow Lake Road, spoke relative to the city's goal of a strategic plan to revisit the Willow Lake settlement agreement to create more developer plans, so they were in support of that. Another resident, Kathy Lincoln, suggested that the strategic plan was a bit vague and more like to-do list. And she also suggested that the strategic plan to look at creation of a lively downtown area, and also suggested that there should be a very strong section on the city development, and the development should probably occur within the city before development outside the boundary. And then there was quite a bit of discussion among the commission itself on the strategic plan. There was a general discussion on planning needing to be more specific. The planning team sought inputs on the action items. Some suggested that we could probably not discuss the action items before the approved mission and vision statement. But we did go ahead and provide some feedback anyways. Some of us volunteered to provide written feedback. There was again a discussion on clarity of the mission and vision and action items, as well as the relationship between them. And we are looking forward to talking about the plan further in the future.
All right,
That's about it.
thank you. Any questions or comments? Looking at our liaison. Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you to you and the commission members for also engaging very deeply in planning for our future. We really appreciate the
Absolutely.
thoughtfulness.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, before I go to that one, Hirsch and Marianne Sangster, you got the intro and the lead up from Mike de Blasi. So let's hear about the Keizer May 5th event.
Madam Mayor, council members, staff, we are Hirsch and Marianne Sangster, and tonight I'm not with Traffic Safety. We're here with the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association, and we have engaged in planning and developing a Keizer community event that will include bike skills at Keizer Elementary. Mary Ann and I for years have been doing these kind of events, but it was put on in East Salem, where each year they would have big community event, including bike skills and everything at Chavez, Scott, Washington School, and around. Well, COVID put a stop to that, and some of the staffing wasn't around anymore. And we thought, well, if we could get one principal to agree to it, and we did at Keizer Elementary. Excited, very excited. And so far, we're still looking for more people. We're going to be working with Keizer United. The police have already gone on board. We'll be meeting with Lieutenant Hine for the details on the police involvement. Northwest Hub, Chariots will be there. We're looking for possible food carts there. This is not just for Keizer Elementary, it's for all the elementary schools in Keizer. But the first one will be at Keizer Elementary. So it's a big idea, and we'll need a lot of help. So Mary Ann and I will be asking around the city for help and stuff. Like for bikes for the kids, so they can ride, because there are a lot of kids that don't. I've already contacted Cycle Oregon, and they said, yeah, we might bring some bikes down. So, and the Northwest Hub will be there to do some bike repairs and stuff. And so we're trying to make it a big Keizer event on May the 4th. And you can wear your Star Wars outfits. But the school is really excited. The parent-teacher committee is very excited about doing this event. We'll have either the gym or one of the outside areas open for booths for all the resource is in Keizer that would like to participate. And the fire department will be there. You know, it just trying to make it a big event. The bike skills portion will have a brief instruction type, kind of a classroom instruction. And then we'll have monitors go with the kids on a bike through a skill course that we've designed using duct tape. And we have the stop signs and checklists and everything. And we'll have bilingual available for sure. And then once the children are finished, because of the remodel at Keizer Elementary, they have a nice paved track. And the Keizer police will take the kids for a bike ride.
Nice.
And the kids
Love
love to ride with the officers.
I think the
They are
officers
so
liked it.
excited.
Yeah, we've seen this with the Salem police, and the police got more excited about it than the kids. There was a lot of smiling faces. So it's an opportunity. It's the first time we've done it in Keizer this big, or thinking this big. So it's going to take the whole community to come together. Mary Ann is clearly in charge of weather.
Gives me the tough one.
Well, she lives with me. She has more points in heaven. So I want the council to know if anybody's listening that would like to participate or want to just help a little bit, just have them contact either the Keizer Elementary. Claudia Mendoza is the contact person, or myself.
All right. And we have on the dais here the flyer. It does have a QR code with a cute little dinosaur in the middle. So is there a copy of this that you can get to Ms. Bissett so we can post it on the city website?
Yes, and this is our first draft, so the list will be even more as we get more people. So, but
Okay.
yes, I can make sure you get it.
That would be fantastic. We could get on the community calendar. And this coming from the organizers of the Monster Cookie. You guys don't do anything small.
No, I'd like to start it big.
Start big but big and focus on local. Any questions from any of the council members?
We'll have helmets there. The other thing that we're looking for is little flashing lights that we can give kids.
I think Safe Routes to School might be able to help, but there might be some other sources as well. So looking forward to connecting up resources. But it's what Keizer does. Keizer shows up. So you put the list out there, what you need, you're going to be swimming in it.
These events traditionally have been really popular, and so hopefully that holds true.
We did one at Harrod Elementary in West Salem. It was a community event, and there was 250 families that showed up.
It was huge.
That's fantastic.
So we want it to be big. We want traffic problems. Before we leave, I want, on National Women's Month, this lady had Keizer's first New Year's baby. Talk about Keizer.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Counselor Kohler, did you have something?
Yes, just very quickly, Mr. Sangster, we'll talk a little bit about some of the events and things that we had with the 40th year birthday celebration here, because I think some of those same people may want to be there. So I have a list of that too. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And that's how we get it done.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. I do have two more people signed up, but they are specific for item 8A, which is the Neighborhood Association Recognition Discussion. So with council's concurrence, I would like to have them address council under that agenda item. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so we have that conversation all together. So, Tammy Kunz and Rhonda Rich, if you're willing to stand by on that, then we can have that conversation in one space. With that, is there anybody else who's here for a committee report? Then I will go to public comment. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have a public hearing this evening on an ordinance regulating the towing of vehicles from private property. So if you're here for that, stand by. Before we go to oral comment, I want to acknowledge for the record a written comment, public process for fees for service from Tammy Kunz from the Greater Northeast Neighborhood Association. So that is entered into the record. All right, is there I don't have anybody signed up for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the council this evening under public comment? Okay, then we will move forward to a public hearing. I'd like to open a public hearing on an ordinance regulating the towing of vehicles from private property and the two associated resolutions. This goes to Mr. Brown and Mr. Lindsay, or does it go to Chief?
I'll take it, Madam Mayor.
All right, you do the long straw.
Madam Mayor, City Council, we have before you a staff report talking about implementing a private party towing ordinance. We've never had one in the city. Just a little background as why we have this is, actually, we've been discussing this since Sergeant Leday was here years and years ago. At least 4 years we've been talking about this, but we see members of the city have their car towed from these mainly apartment parking lots because they don't even have a sticker on it, they don't have the right to be there. But in one case, back in August of 23, one vehicle owner paid over $800 in tow fees for one vehicle. And I don't think that's irregular. In 1 month, going back to last year as well, when we really started to hit this again, in August of 23, we had 30 cars towed by a private party towing company just from one apartment complex on the south end of town. And so what we're trying to do is just have the city regulate it with the costs and with permitting tow companies. And there's a whole list of good reasons to do this that I list in the staff report. Hopefully you've had a chance to read that. But we feel it's a good thing for the city, and it makes us more reputable, and we can regulate how things are done. So I would, well, there's a couple things you guys can do with this tonight. You can adopt the attached ordinance resolutions. You can suggest some changes to the ordinance or resolution, send it back to us to do some more work, or you can just not pass it. So,
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Lindsay.
thank you. The other details that I think could be helpful for the body to hear is that in the process of having this hearing, we reached out to all of the area that we could find online, and I believe it was 35 of them. So we reached out to 35 different towing companies that are local, and then even some that have a footprint as far north as Portland, but they do some business here in town, or online, at least it says that they do. So we did reach out. I only received myself one phone call from a man named Stanley. I'm not exactly sure what organization he was with, and he didn't necessarily want to make a comment, but he was just curious about what it meant. And I basically explained to him that this is a way for not only our police to regulate, but there's a moment in here that allows for, if a person is in the midst of finding their car being hooked up, but it hasn't left yet, it gives a mechanism for them to get their car without having to go clear to the tow yard and go through all of that. And that's a release at scene sort of moment. And because we don't have an ordinance, we don't have that opportunity for our citizens. So that's one of the reasons I think this is important as well.
Thank you very much. Questions on the staff report or the ordinance? Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Copeland, you mentioned that scenario at the apartment complex in the south end of town, the 30 cars that were towed. Can you give a little more detail about the context of that? Were they parked on the road, on the street where they weren't? Were they just didn't have a sticker? Like, what were some of the details surrounding that?
yeah, so in this particular apartment complex, you have to have a sticker on your car that shows your car belongs there. And my understanding is the cars, friends would come visit, they would park there, the cars would get towed. Or someone would stay the night with a friend, and then the car would be gone in the morning. Those are the basic scenarios that would happen. We had one family that was moving in, didn't have a chance or didn't know. Maybe they probably knew, but they didn't put the sticker on their car, and their car ended up getting towed.
Great. Thank you
Yep.
for that
You're
additional
welcome.
information.
Thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I was wondering about the term unscrupulous practices. Wondering if that is something that we need to define a little bit more clearly, or is that just one of those things that I know when I see it, kind of a thing?
I could try to answer this too. So some of the terminology in here, you can choose to try to, give a qualifying descriptive word for activities. But in this case, we try to define some of the actual actions that we are hopeful that people won't do, which is lurking, lying in wait within, a few feet away and waiting for somebody to just quickly go in so you can hook it up, stuff like that. So we actually reached out, I know Trevor did actually, reached out to the kind of state towing organization, and they were also, they have an opinion about some of the words, and if you want to share that too, I think that would be helpful.
So in the last 5 years that we've been kind of developing this, the state, they've created a state board of towing, just like there's a state board of nursing and realtors and the such. And we sent this out to that board, which is relatively new, and they gave us comments which were added into this ordinance as a whole in certain sections. And they thought it was a great step forward. They wanted to continue to follow the progress on this and possibly use this as a template for other jurisdictions in the state that will be looking to us if this goes forward. I know that there are other jurisdictions out there that do have a tow ordinance, and we pulled from, I believe, Albany, City of Albany, and some other jurisdictions that have city ordinances that regulate the towing. I don't know about more.
Well, and I guess my point was they're, sometimes the word predatory gets used in this context and sometimes like unscrupulous. And they were of the mind, if I'm relaying what you had anecdotally told me, but that they're like, yeah, we don't necessarily like the word predatory either, but we're not sure which words to use then to describe some of the stuff. So it is this sort of game, and I know you're an English teacher, so you know, like, which words do you use, right? But what we did try to do is put together an actual list of things that are more objective beyond just the descriptive words too, so.
Okay, just follow up.
Follow up?
So, so basically, it is defined, and yet it also leaves room for unanticipated, unscrupulous practices that may or may not be mentioned in that part.
Well, mostly this looks to limit the amounts that people can be charged, and it looks to limit, like, when somebody can just say, come get it at the yard, because really, the big deal here is the release at scene language, because what we found in some of the stories was the people were there while they were hooking up their car, because it takes a while, and they're like, please, just can we pay you something right here and have it released so we don't have to go through, you know, the whole rigmarole of going and getting it, and then actually being charged more when they take it clear to the towing yard, because then there's other fees that get tacked on. So this looks to kind of create a middle ground where if somebody comes out and they're like, I'm sorry, my bad, but we're at the scene, it gives them not only a opportunity to have it released to them if they pay, but it gives them a window of like 15 minutes in order to effectuate payment, so they can get on the phone with their office and do like a credit card payment. And I hope that kind of answers your question. Part of trying to deal with this is people do have a right, the owners have a right to have stuff towed away. But we want there to be proper signage. We want there to be kind of an orderliness to it, and then also some fairness baked in for folks when they, you know, instead of completely ruining their whole weekend, they can just have their evening slightly ruined, right? So that's what we're aiming for, is kind of a middle ground, if that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under current situation, cost savings for citizens, competitive and cost reduction, by allowing towing companies to compete fairly, the ordinance can encourage competitive pricing. Who is going to establish that?
In this case, so there's some tows that just don't actually fall under this ordinance, for one. So like bona fide repossessions, for instance, aren't part of this, and police tows are not part of this. But when it comes to like the private tows, then what you guys will actually establish those rates. That's one of the resolutions, is the fees that they can charge up to. They wouldn't have to charge the whole thing, but they probably will. But so it'll cap some of the fees that they can charge in the rates.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to clarify, this permitting application process that's referenced in the ordinance, is that robust enough to vet some of the companies that might be towing?
Councilor Starr, we would be using a template that we've been using for quite a long time for our current tow contracts with the city. We have a guideline from the Oregon Police Investigators Association, I believe it is, and it would be robust enough to where we would be able to go out, inspect their vehicles, make sure that they're following all ODOT regulations. We would be doing a quasi background investigation on their tow drivers, tow owners, anybody that's going to have any dealings with those vehicles. And for instance, name, date of birth, just some basic information so that we can do scans, criminal histories on them, and we would preclude those that have maybe theft histories in their background, maybe sexual assaults in their background. And there's a whole guideline that we would use to vet the drivers, the owners, anybody that's going to be touching the vehicles.
Follow up?
So what would, what part of that process would vet them for unscrupulous practices in the past?
It would not. It would be on a case-by-case basis. There is a section in here where it does talk about complaints. Citizens can come to the police department and file a complaint with us, at which point we are obligated to investigate those complaints. If we would then take that information to a hearings officer here in the city of Keizer, designated by Mr. Brown or council or whoever does that, and we would come to some resolution at that point.
But there's nothing built into this process that would help identify those companies beforehand, before issuing the permit, that would help identify those companies that maybe have unscrupulous practices prior to issuing them a permit for the city.
Correct. Short of doing, when we do a background investigation on those folks, they will be tied to calls for service, and that's part of our background check. If we were to investigate those calls, read those calls, and we started to see a pattern of behavior of unscrupulous activity, I don't know exactly. I'd have to ask Mr. Lindsay to clarify whose authority it would be to then not issue that permit, but it certainly would be the city of Keizer saying, no, we're not going to issue that permit.
Well, and it starts with the police, and then the appeal process could come through a hearings officer and then even up to the city council. But the notion is it's an annual renewal. And so I believe, what we'll do is we'll kind of start almost thinking of a clean slate with unscrupulous acts. But then throughout the year, if they are shown to have them, then when they have to renew, or if they're accused of it, they'll go through a hearing. But if they have to renew at the end of the year and they've had a few, then those comments can be taken into consideration at the renewal period.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And maybe I missed it, but 9 months in, we have an unscrupulous practice. That's pretty egregious. Can we just say, no more permit for you?
Yeah, you guys withhold the right to, or
Okay,
the city does, to not permit somebody to be doing activity in the city.
but we can cancel that permit?
Yeah.
Like mid-year or whatever? Okay, great, thank you.
Good questions. Anything else before we look to people here to, Councilor Kohler, and then I'll follow up with Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Lindsay, did I hear you right that you contacted over 40 tow companies and nobody bothered to reply?
I think it was 35, and did you get, somebody contacted you?
I heard from one.
Oh, okay, and I heard from one.
So,
Different ones, I think, but his name was Stanley, I didn't get.
so apparently they're not too concerned about this?
I don't think so. The guy that I talked to was, I think he thought that he was on the up and up, and it didn't bother him when I kind of explained that it was just trying to, get people to play nice in the, in the midst of the middle of the tow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just have a question about how we're going to get the word out. Lieutenant Wenning had mentioned signage and so forth. We will get signs up? Is that a city requirement? Is that the private property? And then how are we going to get this word out to people that they know that they have this recourse?
Well, I believe you'll get a hold of, or we will get a hold of all of the towing companies that we know of and tell them of this new requirement to apply for this permit.
I was meaning more the people who might be on the other end of the unscrupulous practices.
Oh, I see. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Do you have any idea?
So, Councilor Reed, the signage that I think you're referring to, the signage is responsible of the private property owner. They have to post the signage that has very specific language on it as to where the vehicles could be towed, if it was towed, a phone number, all the contact information on their property. As far as letting the folks know, the citizenry, we can certainly make that into, use press releases, educational articles with the Keizer Times, but it's more so, the signage is more on the private property owner, such as the apartment complex owners, that they have the proper signage and they have to meet some criteria in this ordinance as well in order for that tow to be valid.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Husband?
The fun never ends, Madam Mayor, thank you. Lieutenant Wenning, what does the State Board of Towing require of municipal police forces that you're aware of to work with them? Or is there a requirement to work with Oregon State Police on something like this? Has any of that been established basically, or are we still kind of learning as we go here?
Councilor Hausman, we are learning as we go. The State Board of Towing is relatively new. They are still working out the details on how they're going to establish their rules and regulations. I suspect that they're going to be relying on the equipment piece of it through ODOT and then through jurisdictions like ourselves, developing ordinances. And they were just appreciative that we sent them our ordinance just for review. But there is, to my knowledge, no requirement that jurisdictions, police departments actually work with the Board of Towing. It's more so towing companies themselves that would be required to work with them.
Thank you for laying that out. I appreciate it. So essentially, assuming we pass something here, we'd be able to take that back to the state board, say, hey, now this is on our books, and they'd be able to take that and essentially react and come back to KPD with anything further.
That is correct.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would look for people who are here to testify on this issue. I have nobody signed up to testify under this public hearing, so I open the floor to anybody who would like to address the council on this matter. Come on up and to the microphone, and your name and city of residence, and then you've got time. No, that's why I'm calling for folks. Thank you.
I have to push a button. I've never done this before.
It should be on.
Is this on?
It
Can you hear me?
is.
Okay, cool. So I live in an apartment building and.
So just your name?
Hi, I'm Krista Medrano. I live on Chihuahua Road. Is that all you need?
Perfect.
Okay.
You're good.
So I live in an apartment building and I was thinking, so you talked to the, towing companies. Have you talked to the property management companies? Because we have private towing within the parking spaces.
What will happen is if the council chooses to actually pass this, then, and it becomes law, then as the police respond to various areas and situations, part of what they'll be looking for is whether or not the appropriate signage is on the property management or on the property itself, and therefore that would inspire a conversation with each property management place that has towing that happens at their site.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good question. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on this matter?
I have one, sorry. When you're done, I have another question.
Okay. So press pause just for a second. Okay, I'm hearing none. Additional questions before I close public hearing? Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One more question. So following up on the public comment question, so there's a tow from an apartment complex who has private towing. They didn't have the proper signage up because they didn't know, even though this was an ordinance. Two questions. Why wouldn't we send out communication to all the property management companies of our apartment complexes in Keizer? And number two, what would happen if they didn't have the signage and they were still towed? That doesn't seem fair to me.
Well, and so what I believe, and actually it could be more than apartments too that we would communicate with, right? Because it's restaurants and, so all the stores in town that we would want to proactively then.
But all the examples, and with all due respect, the examples that were given here tonight were apartment complexes.
Correct.
So that would lead me as a counselor hearing this information to believe that that's where a majority of the issues are.
Yeah.
So I really am not interested in getting into like restaurants and grocery stores and stuff. My question was about the property management companies.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we notify them, to her point?
Yeah.
And number two, what would happen if they didn't have the signage and they were still towed? That doesn't seem fair to me.
Yeah, well, people have the right to appeal if that occurs.
So they're still gonna have to go and pay exorbitant rates to get their car out? Do you see where I'm trying to connect the dots and I'm really having a hard time?
Well, this is an attempt to, I mean, part of this is a mechanism for folks, if they are charged more than the rates that you guys establish, then we have to wait till that happens in order to try to rectify it, if that makes sense. We can try to get out in front with education and with, sending notices that this is an ordinance that people have to follow, all the businesses in the city. But the reality is if somebody gets their car towed and it was done outside of the parameters of this, then that person's, appeal of that activity would result in our hearings officer saying it's reversed and you owe them the money back.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
But it's like law enforcement of all types, is that you kind of have to wait till somebody breaks the law in order for you to be responsive to it.
But
We're trying to be proactive and make sure that everybody's signs are correct and all of that, but,
So we are going to communicate with property management companies, is
Yes.
that what I'm hearing? Great, thank you.
I'm gonna go to Lieutenant Wenning and then Mr. Brown.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Yes, we will be putting educational material out there. It is the responsibility of the tow company, though, to understand that they have to have this permitting process. Ignorance is not, affirmative defense to the law, so we would do our best to get that information out to the complexes, because really they're the ones that are contracting, if you will, with these companies. And as soon as they put their signage up, it's really on the property management companies to inform the tow drivers on what they can and cannot do. I would think it would be prudent for the property owners to actually have a copy of our ordinance with them, and maybe when they're setting up that initial contract, that's what they discuss. Getting the information out to the public is really easy. We've got different mechanisms, press releases. Lyndon Zeitz over at the Keizer Times will certainly be putting an article together. And maybe it's a little bit naive on my part, or maybe a lack of understanding of if we should have done this on the front end. But until this comes to fruition, I just didn't have the forethought to actually go out and educate those property owners and get them all excited about something that maybe the council doesn't even approve or pass. So one step at a time. I think that once we get this, if this does pass, then the onus will be on the police department to get that education out there, create the forms, and then it'll be up to the tow companies to understand what their rights are when they do come onto that private property to tow a private citizen's vehicle.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
I think Mr. Lindsay and Lieutenant Wenning have covered it. I was going to just say that we can send something out to the property owners.
Thank you. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Have we worked out what the permit would cost the city really to put together, and is there a fee associated with that they would have to renew? I see there's something, but I didn't know if we had established how much that fee would need to be to cover our costs in doing that.
the suggested fee is $50 a year, and that's really to cover the costs of the background check. And then that's every year, because every year you would have a new background check. People have turnover in staff and whatnot, so.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as far as our staff time, which department would be issuing those and which one would actually be spending the hours doing all that?
Both of those functions would be done with the police department.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And for folks following along at home, I believe that's the second resolution that's in the package. We have an ordinance and then two resolutions. And the one relating to the private property impound towers permit application fee is in that second resolution. All right, anything further before I close the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr?
I move that the city council adopt ordinance number 2024, regulating towing of vehicles from private property, resolution R 2024, relating to private property impound towing and storage rates, and resolution R 2024, relating to private property impound towers permit application fee.
Second?
The ordinance and, I guess I have to read ordinances, never mind. It has been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt ordinance number 2024, regulating towing of vehicles from private property. Resolution R 2024, relating to private property impound towing and storage rates. And Resolution R 2024, relating to private property impound towers permit application fee. Discussion. Councilor Husband.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to introduce a friendly amendment based upon Section 17, Part A of the towing private property ordinance. It currently states a violation of any section of this ordinance may be subject to a fine or penalty in the maximum amount of $500 each day a violation occurs or continues is a separate offense. I would like to introduce the friendly amendment to raise that maximum amount to $1,000.
Before we go forward with that, I think we have some limitations on fees and fines. Is that in excess of those limitations? I'm looking to the city attorney.
You can actually get to $1,000. As far as the state statute goes, I'm actually, and as I sit here, I'm actually unaware of locally if there's a limit on that. And so I can answer for the state statute, but I would need to actually research.
All right, thank you.
Whether 500 was.
I'm gonna go to Mr. Witham.
I think the 500 is because that's what the Keizer Uniform Nuisance Infraction Ordinance spells out for kind of all ordinance violations unless they're otherwise specified. So I think that's why it was 500. But.
And statewide, like any violation can be up to a maximum of $2,000 under state statute.
Right, okay. Thank you. So I'll go to the mover. Does the mover accept the friendly amendment?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. It has not been accepted. Do you want to make that a separate motion?
I will decline that, but thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, all. That concludes public hearings for this evening. We will now go to administrative action, item 8A, which is the Neighborhood Association Recognition Ordinance Discussion. And this goes to Mr. Brown?
Mr. Lindsay, actually.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Lindsay.
Mr. Lindsay, thank you.
Yes, so I'm going to turn to the staff report if I can for a moment. Just get my bearings. So this is a older ordinance that has been on our books since 1993. And so, in fact, old enough that there is no way to get a Word document of this. So one of the strategies we had was to try to offer suggested amendments to kind of clean this up and maybe make it a little bit more useful for the council. But the reason it's like this is because we're gonna have to type up the whole thing anew if you guys do choose to make any of these amendments. And staff does suggest that you do, because I think some of them could be helpful. It could give a little bit more definitive and objective criteria and standards. So one of the ways in which the council can look and view at neighborhood associations and their activities is by kind of the standards you guys set for them. And so this looks to give a little bit more particularized standards of every neighborhood association. And then the other thing is, I had listened to you, the council had, in August of 2023, they had a workshop, and a lot of folks, I think every neighborhood association was present and spoke. It was a 2.5-hour meeting, and I tried to listen closely to kind of all of those discussions and try to put forward what I thought were amendments that could address a lot of folks' issues that they raised at that meeting. Some of it was how can they spend their funds, and so we've tried to address that. Some of it was, the way in which they meet, the site in which they meet, and the way in which the city, because I know the council seemed very interested in how to support all of the neighborhood associations. And so there is, within the earlier ordinance, promises basically that if you're recognized as a neighborhood association, these are how the city is going to support you. And we've tried to add a few more of those in as well. And so this is just, actually, it's clearly up to the council. It's your legislative power when you pass an ordinance, or even amend one. And so this is trying to distill all of that meeting down in the discussion you guys had into bite-sized morsels that you can kind of go through the old ordinance step by step, section by section, and see if you're interested in changing them in this way or in another way or in no way at all.
All right, thank you very much. Last year we had a fantastic work session with all of the neighborhood associations. It was a very robust conversation, hence the 2.5 hours of fantastic input. This is a very old ordinance, and I'm glad to have it coming back around now for this next cut, if you will. And I expect that we will continue to have a conversation. I believe we have scheduled our next work session with all the neighborhood associations for April. Is that correct? I think it's it is April 8th. Yes. So thank you, Tammy. So to continue this conversation because it was so productive. So thank you, Mr. Lindsay, for going back and listening to that to bring us this next version. So I refer people to page 40 of the packet, which has the potential and suggested changes, some of which came from that conversation. And I'd like to also point out the expense guidelines for neighborhood associations that's been generated as a draft, and also the reimbursement form for neighborhood associations to help, make it simpler and more straightforward for neighborhood associations to apply for the funds. With that, I would like to open up to questions from council on the potential suggested changes, after which we will go to Rhonda Rich and to Tammy Kunz and to Krista, if you want to weigh in as well from Northwest. So love to hear from you as well. Council questions, Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I do appreciate this, the testimony that Rhonda Rich has submitted. We have this in writing here, and this encompasses a lot of my ideas. To add the brochures and box stands, certificates of recognition or appreciation, and I would also propose maybe funding some of the little libraries, or at least some of the, not the libraries themselves, but the boxes. Because I know in West Keizer, we had an incident where those got run over in the ice storm. And, it did get put up through some good volunteer efforts, but just putting that on the list of possible expenses too. I don't anticipate that would be a great, drain by any means, but. And then I also had a question on the section 5A4 with the half the regular meetings shall take place within the recognized boundary of the city of the association. City Hall is where most of those meetings take place, and City Hall is only in the boundaries of the Greater Northeast Keizer Association. So I know that one of the council's goals was to get out in the community a lot more, but we have to be kind of creative on how to do that and not abandon that. Half the regular meetings seems a bit excessive. I would like to either take that out or add an electronic component. I know Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association has very robust Zoom meetings that they have a whole lot more attendance to than they do the in-person attendance. And so if we could perhaps add some kind of online component to this as well, I would like to see that.
Thank you very much. Additional comments at this point? All right, then I would like to hear from, we'll lead off with Rhonda Rich. And thank you for everybody watching. We do have written testimony that will be published after the meeting, so people can read this as well.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. Yes, I would like to, you all have a copy of the testimony, the things that I've talked to some of our board members and things that we have talked about in the past. As Councilor Reed mentioned, we wanted to add the brochure boxes and stands because brochures need someplace to go when they're in the neighborhood. And those are realtor stands and such. And certificates of recognition, I used to do this for board members that went off and buy just a frame and kind of print off from the computer a certificate of appreciation. But also, we were talking about Copper Creek Mercantile and maybe Buy Mart that house our food barrels to give them some recognition, something they can put up. So, and then the little libraries, that little library has been there for a long time. We did use, I think, some city funds for, I think it was $35 to register the little library. And I don't believe we charged the city for any of the materials. I think they were just donated from the members. I think Martin built that little library, Martin Dorfler. So moving on to the 5A about the meetings. We have been meeting here, I think, since the Civic Center opened up for meetings between 5 and 10 years. I don't know how old this building is, but that is also in our brochure that we meet at City Hall. It's on our website. It's on our signs that we put out in the neighborhood, which we have about 20 signs, and those cost about $35 a piece. So the logistics of trying to, alternate places of a meeting would be very difficult. And I say we appreciate it and been very comfortable at the City Hall. If somebody has a PowerPoint, wants to do that, we're here, and Lily's great about, accommodating our needs. We had in the past tried to, I think we mentioned this, a work session at the schools, which if the school comes up with an activity they want to do that evening, and that's our regular meeting night, we're kind of out in the cold. And it's very difficult to schedule with the district. And then in the houses of worship, that's kind of another issue that people feel kind of uncomfortable in just having that at a regular meeting place. We do try to have, we have activities in our neighborhood like the parks, cleanup, and we're trying to partner with John Knox, because we did this one year to have like a community, a neighborhood, barbecue. And that was during the summer. So we understand that, some activities, we want to bring the people together in the neighborhood. So we do make an effort, but having our regular general meetings there is not really sustainable. And I just wanted clarification on 5A7, that the board roster includes the names and email addresses. We don't want our property addresses in the public. So, as far as contacting us, the email addresses, we've all talked about this before, but we could provide one physical address, and that would probably be my house, that if the city gets some communication, they can forward it to us. And so and then we need clarification on the administrators. I'm not quite sure. I'm not real savvy on websites and whatnot. We do have, Barbara Smith-Hankey does our management of our website. I send information to her and she posts it. She does all the posting because none of us go into the website and do anything. But there's like 2 or 3 of us who do send information to her and to change something on the website. So I'm not quite sure what administrators are. I think maybe we meet that, but I wasn't sure. And just in section 5C4, about the minimum attendance of members, I just wanted to say, we've been fortunate, we've been around for a while, that we do have quite a, a good turnout, but I know that there's some neighborhood associations that struggle, and I'd hate to see any kind of requirement put on how many members they have show up at meetings, but that's up to you guys in your discussion. I'd like to say that there were talked to several other neighborhood association chairs that were not aware that you were talking about this tonight. And so I would hope that you feel free to discuss it, but as far as like passing the ordinance at the next meeting, I would hope that would happen maybe after our work session, so we can have some input and buy-in and kind of hash this out a little bit more. But I do appreciate it's been around for a while. And I think our bylaws were changed, revised in 2019. So, so we kind of cleaned that up a little bit too. So that's all I have.
All right, questions for Ms. Rich? Counselor Hussman.
Rhonda, I think, excuse me, thank you for your testimony, first of all. Really appreciate you breaking that down for us. I think you've said this before in a public meeting, but I just want to ask for the additional visibility. Has West Keizer Neighborhood Association adopted a stance on putting the meetings up on a video conferencing software like Zoom or something of that nature, any sort of broadcast?
We talked about it a little bit, and it was dropped as nobody kind of stepped up and said, oh yeah, I'd like to do that. So, and I'm not familiar with that, technology, so.
Totally fair. I only
I'll be
ask
honest.
because some do and some don't. And if we end up having a communication gulf of sorts between our neighborhood associations, then it may be something big enough that council has to address that in the way we approach neighborhood associations. I don't necessarily want to commit anybody to anything right now. I just want to bring that up as a potential topic of interest.
And if we were meeting at City Hall, maybe we could work out something to where we have the technology set up for our meetings, although I know our meetings move from room to room and we've met in the lobby at times. So, so that would be up to you.
Not that we don't love the lobby, but
Yeah,
to be sure,
it's comfortable.
some spaces are a little bit better than others.
Yeah.
That's all for me, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions at this time? And no, this is not up for adoption tonight. This is circling back on the conversation we had last year. I really appreciate Mr. Brown and Mr. Lindsay bringing this back up to our attention with the proposed updates. But this is something that we're going to be doing, I believe, and council, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to be doing this together. Again, this is a giant leap forward, and the conversation we had last year was so, there was so much meat to it. This is going to take
Right, I
a
think
couple goes
the
at it.
money, spending the money has to be discussed a little bit more too, as far as what the city is willing to pay for, as far as advertising in Keizer Times or Keizer Fest, because that has been outside of our budget, so. So we want to talk about that at that meeting too.
All right,
So,
so noted.
okay.
All right,
thank you.
anything else for Ms. Rich? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Kunz?
Hello, Tammy Kunz, Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association. So, I'm gonna ditto just about everything she said, and I gave Melissa a copy of what I'm sharing with you now. We are extremely blessed to have this in our association, and not everybody has that. I know that, after talking to Rhonda, over the weekend, I called some of the schools today to find out what it would be like for them to meet in the schools, and insurance prices for what we would have to have is insane. So I don't know how any of us would even exist if we had to meet in a school. In addition to requiring half of us to meet in our areas, that in itself would be an extreme hardship for just about all of us. None of us get enough money to be able to even put a dent in the insurance that they would want. So having this as a central location is a huge blessing. I did talk to Cummings and Keizer Elementary. I talked to Gupser. I've spent many conversations talking to Miranda with Kennedy Elementary, who is accommodating for other issues. But having us meet at City Hall is really huge because you guys do provide all the technology when we need it. To reprint all our signs and materials, I called my printer today and said, if I had to redo my signs, what would it be? Anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500. And that's only for 5 signs. I don't have anywhere near the signs these guys do, but they've been around for a very long time. And I learn from them at every meeting. Cost for brochure boxes, you guys touched on that. I would like to find out what it would take for each of us. Most of us have parks in our neighborhood association. So putting up the realtor boxes in our parks to make our information available would also be extremely helpful. But I don't know the guidelines for that. That would be your department. Annual directory cost, Tim has been amazing at making sure we have at least the one publication. I know that we talked about doing, an annual bill, and maybe that could rotate between all of us. So the people in Southeast Keizer would get notification quarterly, and it would just move periodically so that everybody got their chance. I think that would also be helpful in us reaching out to the community. So if they saw it on their bill, it's kind of like that little reminder, because we all get busy. Websites and information like that. Maybe, since you guys are all doing this new technology base, Mr. Brown, we could look at you guys hosting websites if we did all the upkeep. And I know that Ken doesn't have a website, Greater Gupser doesn't, Rhonda does. I was looking to go to Rhonda's company. Actually, Rhonda's person is gonna help me with that. But if we could have all the associations in one spot at one website, it would help with the engagement process as well, I think. And our websites are not current and up to date, which I don't understand. Ken doesn't have anything current since 22. I know that they send you minutes or Dawn minutes. Ours wasn't up to date. Northwest wasn't up to date. So if we can find a way for all of that collaboration to work a little better so that all our information is accessible better, I think that will help us extremely for those of us who are new, but also make life a little easier for Dawn if all she has to do is click it and upload documents that we send her, or we take that on. I do have great online meetings. I am very blessed. I was very scared to take that challenge because technology is not my friend. But my neighbor does a great job at setting all that up for me. And we average between 15 to 34, depending upon what's going on. With the new builds going on, it's getting a little larger and very intimidating. But I will keep meeting them where they're at. If that works for them, then that's what I want to do. Item section 3E. I would like to make sure that we're all getting notified when there's new builds or anything going on in our associations. that we're getting email information in that. I know that because of the new housing stuff going on, everybody's got new stuff going on, but it makes my life easier when I know, hey, they tore that building down, what's going on? And sure might make Shane's life a little easier because he hears from me a lot. But if we have that information, then we can put it in our newsletters and put it online and make that available so everybody knows what's going on. I like section 3H because it'll help us recover some minor cost, so that we don't have a lot of out of pocket. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay. Great input. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Kunz? I really like that, looking at possible cost savings as well as uniformity, consistent, that's not a great word, consistency of communication quality for website. So look at the cost benefit rather than having them do, the neighborhood associations do it individually and incur cost if there's a cost savings, by doing it this way. So something that we could think about, Mr. Brown, do you think?
Yeah, we can look into it.
All right,
Get
thank
back
you.
next time we meet.
I think it just helps with all our accountability process as well, because if we have access to that, then when I get emailed my minutes from our meeting, I can just upload it or send Don a quick message saying, here you go, I'm gonna go ahead and upload it. Why don't you double check, make sure I did it right? Save her some time.
And I like the consistency, you know, between all of the neighbor associations where, it's really clear where people can go find it. If people are used to going to the Keizer.org website, it'll be an easy button to pop up, and neighbor associations then get the attention and the direction that I think will help promote this throughout the city. So, thank you for that idea. Appreciate it. Anything else for Ms. Kunz? All right, thank you so much. So we have two members from the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association. So Krista Medrano, and I don't know, if Tammy, if you want to jump in too. Tammy Saldivar.
Hello. Hello again.
Hello.
I'm Krista Medrano from the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association. We are the newest neighborhood association, so our membership is small, you know, 5, maybe 7 people per meeting, and it's just because people don't know that we exist, so we're working on getting that together. I was thinking, when Tammy, the other Tammy, was speaking, that if we are thinking about bringing everything together, I looked under section 3H, and yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that we can get reimbursed for, but wouldn't it make more sense for us to have a mailbox here in City Hall? It doesn't have to be like, what is it, like 6 or 5 different mailboxes, but it can just say Neighborhood Association mailbox. That way we don't have to put our addresses anywhere because, you know, privacy. Also, you know, maybe a little dangerous. And we can have all the mail come here. So I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but I think it would be a good idea to have everything here. Yes, it would probably, you know, gonna have to have Melissa probably let us know that we have mail here, or somebody, or we just need to come and check it, you know, periodically. Also, our neighborhood association is not the City Hall is not within the boundaries of our neighborhood association, so I am gonna repeat the same, that although it's great, and we do have the Grange that eventually will open, and we'll be able to meet there, the high school is a no-go because of the fees. We don't know about the Grange. For the whole neighborhood association meeting, but everybody knows to come here. And I know that as a citizen, sometimes City Hall may seem like a really big, you know, maybe scary place, but people know to come here. And again, our membership is quite small, and we don't want them to now have to find a new place to go. So I know that it's not part of within our boundaries, but it wouldn't be a terrible idea to just kind of put City Hall there as an option for the rest of us. Anything I'm missing?
I was so prepared for this.
Cool, I'm prepared. Okay, cool. Also, again, I imagine that the reason why there is a membership number request, how many members we should have on average per year, probably has to do with budgeting, because now we're getting money from the city and we should keep a membership up. It's an incentive for us and, to show you guys that we're actually doing the work, right? But we also have a website and we have visitors on our website, so I don't know if that counts towards it. But I just want to throw it out there because traffic is traffic and knowledge is knowledge, and people are getting information from our website. Our meeting minutes are in there, our agendas are in there, also in the city hall, in the city website. But I just wanted to maybe amend that a little bit and add website traffic in there. So I think that was all I had. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. Medrano? Councilor Kohler?
Just a comment, thank you. Your numbers may be small, but you are mighty.
We try. Thank you.
Away. Again, I really appreciate what you're doing, starting a new neighborhood association, Northwest, Northeast, really helping different areas of Keizer, which, people like to think of us as a small town, but when we are bumping up against 40,000 people, last time I checked, that's not the definition of a small town. And so by being so active, you are helping create and maintain that small town feel where people are connected. And I really want to call that out and appreciate what all of you are doing through this work. Councilor Husband?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Brown, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about the mailbox consideration. Is that something viable, or are there any hurdles that you could think of as to why a neighborhood association wouldn't be able to get mail sent to City Hall?
I'd like to talk about that with my team and see if that's something we can do. It may be that it's, there's a spot we can have behind the front counter where we put the neighborhood association's mail, but.
Okay, I apologize for putting you on the spot on this.
It's okay, I'll look into it.
Good. I like it. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And I'm, speaking of putting people on the spot, I know there are people who are members of Southeast Keizer. You probably didn't come prepared to talk about this tonight. Okay, I'm not going to do that to you then. All right. Well, thank you all very much. This has been really, really good input on a number of these things. One of the things that was brought up was publishing names and addresses. I absolutely concur. Our private information is not posted on the website for the same reasons that you mentioned for your personal safety and security, and I would completely agree that we need to protect you as well. Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Brown, looking at how the information regarding the neighbor associations will be posted on the website for getting a hold of people, but not publishing their personal information, I think is going to be important. And maybe associated with that, if there's, along with the idea around a PO box, maybe follow up with a conversation about email addresses for the neighborhood associations that the association boards would have the passwords to, but that it would be a city one. I don't know if that's a possibility, but again, with that notion of creating the continuity, but also to make sure there's not personal emails out there. But that there's something that would protect the people who are doing this work. So just a thought out there. Okay. Anything further that the council members would like to make sure gets into the conversation for the next iteration for the update? Council President Starr?
One I didn't see in there was, you talked about 3 administrators for websites. I didn't know if websites was an all-inclusive word for social media accounts, social media pages. What about generic, that sounded bad. Neighborhood association specific email addresses. So for example, off the top of my head, westkaiser@gmail.com, right? That's a kind of a general, for the neighborhood association. I would assume there would be multiple people that could get into that. I just want to make sure that for consistency's sake, you know, it's not just one person, and then if they move out of state and ghost Rhonda, that, like, and I'm just making this up, but that email list is lost. Because that's a lot of work to collect all those email addresses, and I would hate to see neighborhood associations lose those contacts.
Okay, so, thank you. This is why seven community leaders are better than one head over here, because that is actually, what I'm gonna say then, or try to say, and this is be for the last time, or next time, would be official web pages, social media sites, and email accounts. So any of those that are official, and then you'd have to have at least 3 people with access. So if one gets scorned and leaves, they have a way of other people getting into their websites and their email.
Because that
and
is
their
a
social
lot
media
of work, social
Yeah.
media and emails, to just lose access to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, anything further? And we look forward to having a conversation with all of the neighbors associations on April 8th. Thank you very much. We're going to go on now to item 8B, which is an order designating no parking zones on Bailey Road Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and this goes to Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Staff was contacted by affected property owners on Bailey Road Northeast requesting a no parking zone be created along a portion of the south side of Bailey Road. This request was made primarily because of safety concerns for emergency vehicles.
Eat it. There you go.
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Should I start over?
Yes, please, for
Okay.
our audience at home. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Staff was contacted by affected property owners on Bailey Road Northeast requesting a no parking zone be created along a portion of the south side of Bailey Road. This request was made primarily because of safety concerns for emergency vehicles needing to access the street during an emergency. Bailey Road in this area is a 30-foot right-of-way with approximately 24 feet of asphalt. There are no curbs or sidewalks on this street. Parking is allowed and legal in the existing right-of-way. The no parking zone on the south side of the street would be from the intersection of Bailey Road to the western property line of Bailey Road Northeast. This is an odd road configuration. Right over here to the west of City Hall is Bailey Road, which runs north and south between Dearborn and Shamawa. About 2/3 of the way south along the road, there is an asphalt road that goes to the west that is also called Bailey Road. The addresses are consistent with the Bailey Road that runs north and south. Something we inherited from the county. I don't have an explanation on why it's that way. I just know it's that way. So I wanted to explain that because the intersection of Bailey Road and the intersection of Bailey Road doesn't make sense. But it is a T intersection, and so from the north-south piece of Bailey Road, this would be west to the west property line of 4825 Bailey Road.
Got it, okay.
Is that about as clear as I can make it, or have I confused you completely?
All of the above. Please proceed.
There is a picture on the staff report that you can see the layout of this. The no parking zone will be identified with signs placed at each end of the zone and one in the middle, so it's clearly marked that it is a no parking area. The cost to do this would be less than $500 for materials, and then staff time to place 3 signs. Staff would have the no parking zone properly signed within 2 weeks of approval by the city council. City council authorization is needed to establish no parking zones in the city that are more than 50 feet from an intersection. Council's options are to adopt the attached order or do nothing, and parking will remain allowable on this portion of Bailey Road. Staff recommends the city council adopt the attached order. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Before we go to questions, I'm going to go to Councilor Duran.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm going to abstain on this vote with a potential conflict of interest. This is my daughter's street, so.
All right, so noted for Councilor Duran to be abstaining. Thank you so much. Any questions on the staff report? Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lair, just so I can have like time reference in my mind, how long ago were these concerns by residents of Bailey Road brought to the attention of city staff? I'm just curious when I'm putting the timeline together in like the 2 weeks to get the signs and get them put up and so forth.
I think I was contacted about a month ago.
Oh, so 6 weeks total
Yeah.
from the time somebody brought it forward to getting the signs and getting them put up.
I took a little bit of time to investigate the situation and to see if, and I got a request from one resident, and I don't approach these things upon one request. I want the support of the neighbors. And I waited to get some additional support, which I did receive. And so from at that point, then I carried it forward, got it on the agenda for the city council, and did the staff report.
Great, that's fast. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything further? Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Layer or Chief Copeland, do we know of any incidents where an emergency vehicle has not been able to go down this road?
I am not aware of any,
I am not either.
but I am aware of the narrowness of the roadway, and it's just a matter of time for emergency to be vehicle to be needed to go down that road when somebody's parked there, and it will impact their ability to access the properties.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything further? Council President Starr?
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt the order designating no parking zones on Bailey Road Northeast, Keizer, Oregon.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt an order designating no parking zones on Bailey Road Northeast, Keizer, Oregon. Any further discussion? Councilor Cross?
Thank you. I'm not sure who I'll be asking this to. So have we asked the neighborhood how that will affect this strip of no parking?
The city has not asked. The person that requested this initially has reached out to the neighbors, and there are, if I can remember my count right, there's 6 lots on this property, on this street, and there's 3 property owners, and I've heard from 2 of them, actually 3 of them. So, and let me back up. There's 4 property owners total. One that faces the north-south piece of Bailey Road. It's their north property line that would be established as a no parking zone. They responded positively. They would like to see that happen. And then 2 of the 3 other properties on the street requested the no parking zone as well.
So 3 out of the 4 has requested?
3 out of the 4, yes. Have had 3 out of the 4 have given positive responses for establishing a no parking zone.
Well, I guess my learning moment, or maybe in the future when we go over some, it'd be nice to have those items in writing, just so we had, and it, you know, that, because positive responses, and I know that you know what positive is, doesn't mean that positive is the same for everyone. So thank you.
I have all this via emails, and I'd be happy in the future to include those in staff reports if the council would like to see those, absolutely.
Okay. Sounds like that's a request. Thank you. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. Abstentions?
Yes.
Motion passes with 6 aye and an abstention by Councilor Duran. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to item 8C, which is resolution appointing Keizer Hearings Officer and authorizing city manager to enter into contract with Theodore R. Namura for hearings officer services.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam.
Witham.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. So before you is a resolution. They're asking you to make a motion to appoint the Keizer Hearings Officer and authorize the city manager to enter into a contract. A little backstory with certain land use cases and as well as some code enforcement stuff, although in my time working here, I don't think we ever have gone to a code enforcement officer with a specific, or with the hearings officer with a specific code enforcement case. But there are a handful of ordinances that call out a hearings officer to hear certain cases. Our current hearings officer contract expires at the end of March. We've had the same hearings officer for several years. He's great. I was hoping we could extend his contract. He is quitting, retiring, like all these lawyers tend to do on us lately. But he's awesome. He's got like this like nighttime jazz DJ voice. So it's the funnest thing to go just listen to him talk at the hearings. So I'll miss Jim Brewer. He was great. But I'm excited to hopefully move forward working with Theodore Nomura. We did send out a request for proposals back in January. We received one whole applicant. He was the sole responder, but well qualified, and we would like to move forward. Frame of reference, the last time we did a hearings officer contract, we got exactly 0 responses, sent it out a couple times, and ultimately our current legal counsel at the time made some phone calls, kind of begging some other folks to come. I think one of the dynamics in Keizer, it's a very hit and miss type of assignment. There's not a hearing every month. Sometimes, we do, 6 in a year. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. It just kind of depends. So it is definitely, I won't say we take what we can get, because Mr. Nomura is very well qualified, and I think I'm very pleased that we hopefully are getting him. But yeah, the contract's attached for reference. If you have specific questions on the contract, I'm going to defer to the legal counsel, because Shane gets to read those. But generally, my comment on contracts, it doesn't really matter what I think, because I don't have a lot of expertise there. But yeah, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Questions on the staff report? Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to the RFP, you've been here for a long time, right? Are we using different RFP platforms, or are we still using the same ones that we used when you first started?
Yeah, so the legal department handles the RFP process. Like, I look at the information going out, but I know Tammy Harms, our legal assistant, is who sent those out. I think it got posted on multiple different locations.
Or have we changed those up, I guess, over the years?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do you know that, Mr. Lindsay?
I'm sorry, I don't know the full history of it, but I know that they do use more than one, and I can deliver the message that we can mix it up and try to get creative.
Well, not that, I mean, one is,
Yeah.
and if there's another platform that maybe we haven't, not everyone used Expedia once upon a time, and now they do. Because I did notice that Mr., how do you say his last name? Nomura is from Portland, so just find that interesting with all of the land use attorneys in Salem that not one of them wants to come to little old bitty Keizer.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, historically, I think while I've been going to hearings, I think we've had maybe 4 different ones. And it's somewhat difficult because a lot of folks end up being either city attorneys at other places or land use attorneys. And so some of them kind of avoid hearings officer work because of conflicts that can exist for them. So I do think that's kind of part of it. I was kind of surprised there was no local either. The current one we have is actually from Corvallis, and our one before that ended up getting a full-time gig at Marion County. And he was our hearings officer, who was more of a local guy, but he took a full-time legal counsel job at another jurisdiction, and then that precluded him from doing side work, so.
Okay, thank you. I guess my feedback there was just that we're doing our due diligence as a city, making sure that we're getting to all the latest and greatest platforms.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is more just educational for me. What do other cities do for their hearings officer? And then I have a follow-up.
Yeah, it does range across the board, not only in what they do for hearings officers, but also how they hear land use. Some cities, planning commissions hear more of their cases, but there are several that use outside hearings officers. There's also several cities that appoint somebody within to be the hearings officer. So there's a number of, there's not really a one-size-fits-all.
Follow up.
So just out of curiosity, have we ever, as a city, explored like a cost sharing? If we cost share for IT services, right, which I think we do, yes, then I'm just curious if we've explored some kind of cost sharing agreement with other cities. Like, why are we doing what we've always done?
It's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know on the cost sharing. I mean, all the different contracts would be, we'd have to look into that, but we have not, to my knowledge.
And why do we not appoint our own internally, like if other cities do it?
That's.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, and it's just not the way that our code is structured currently.
So the code doesn't allow it?
No, I mean,
Or we just choose to not do it?
the development code says the council appoints the hearings officer.
So could the council then appoint an internal hearings officer? I'm just,
I'll defer. I'm not a lawyer, so I
I'm trying to
don't
think
know.
outside the box because this, just getting one response to everything makes me want to ask questions.
I was so excited because we got more than zero. Darn it.
I think one of the problems with something like a land use hearings officer is that it's a level of expertise, and yet the price that we pay isn't fantastic necessarily either. Do you know what I mean? So it takes a lot of prep and know-how to kind of even get ready for one of these hearings and then, apply the correct law and in the correct way. So I think sometimes there's kind of a niche group that wants to get into being a hearings officer in other ways, and they don't mind kind of practicing here and there and kind of cobbling together little contracts. But in and of itself, this doesn't address what you're asking, which is, yes, you could appoint somebody. It would probably have to be me. And then the other thing that you could do is, if you want to explore some sort of cost sharing, I think you would have to find a jurisdiction that had somebody that was great. And I think, then you would basically be interviewing the jurisdiction to see how much could we use this person and that sort of thing too. So I think it could be a creative way of maybe finding somebody with decent experience or whatever. Hopefully, this person looks like they have on paper quite a bit of good experience. So we might have gotten lucky, even if we only got one, that somebody who's well qualified to do it.
But we don't know because we didn't explore those options.
Well, that's true. For
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah.
So I just had one follow-up question. With having a hearings officer that is not staffed, does that separation assist with reducing our risk or exposure if there's an appeal?
What the hearings officer does, thank you for asking, is they're an objective, person, fact finder that sits there and hears the case, and then it does allow for the person's right of due process to have appeals to people like yourself, or in some instances, depending on the type, to the planning commission. And so it does give one more layer of ability to have an appeal, if that's what you're asking. Yeah.
Well, in part, and also with the hearings officer not being staff who may have had involvement with preparation of the, let's say it's the land use case and so forth, the hearings officer would not have seen that and can be seen as a more likely a neutral party, if you will. We just had the case recently with the property over here on Dearborn North, for example. The other question I have is, as I understand this contract, it is per hour. This is not where we're hiring a full-time equivalent, but we are contracting similar to what we do with our municipal judge. Is that correct?
Correct.
So this individual would be expected to have other contracts with other cities or other jurisdictions to do the same work on a contractual basis. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so this actually, what's proposed is this person is a contractor, an independent contractor for sure. And so that also not only allows them to go out and, when they don't have to be here, they can be anywhere else, but it also allows for that neutrality and that objectivity, because once you hire them for this particular scope of work, you can't control that. So it allows them to do the right thing and rule as they might without any influence from any of our staff or any of you guys.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions? All right. Oh, is there another, oh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Why 3 years? Is it always 3 years for the
contract?
Yeah, that is generally what we have done. And I will be honest, like, if it's a good hearings officer, most of the time we try to extend those. The work is so few and far between for them that I would say it's not really like the judge, because the judge is here like every week and has been every week. I think the whole time I've worked here, the judge has been the judge for as long as I can remember. So it is a much more regular kind of thing. In these situations, when a land use case walks in, if it requires a hearing before the hearings officer, we make contact with that hearings officer and then schedule the hearing. So it sometimes goes several months that I don't contact them. So it's kind of like having them on a retainer you don't pay, because we only pay them when we have a hearing.
Sorry, follow up. So it's $95 an hour, but if he's in Portland, we're still paying the travel time too?
Well, we spell it out in the contract. I can't remember what it is. I think they get 1 hour maximum for travel time and visiting the site, as I think what it said, if I remember right. But it's been a while since I read it, sorry.
Thank you.
Anything further? Council President Starr?
I move the Keizer City Council adopt resolution R2024 appointing Keizer hearings officer and authorizing city manager to enter into contract with Theodore R. Nomura for hearings officer services.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt resolution R 2024, appointing Keizer hearing officer and authorizing city manager to enter into contract with Theodore R. Nomura for hearings officer services. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That takes us to item 8D, which is the municipal judge report and contract. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you. So you have a judge, and there is a resolution on our books that says that the manner in which we're supposed to evaluate the performance of that judge. And so this is the time for you guys to actually go through that process following that resolution. And so I know that several of the counselors have gone and attended arraignments and hearings in accordance with the resolution. And what this is there's a time where the contract is coming up to expire. And so on top of going through this evaluation process per your resolution, staff is asking how the city council would like to proceed, whether or not they would want to go out for, because June 30th is the end of the current extended contract. So if we were gonna go do an RFP, we would wanna do it pretty darn soon to make sure and get responses and then go through the contracting process with that. Or there is a provision within our contracting code that we can hold a public hearing to exempt the current judge from a solicitation process because of the personal services that he provides, the personal professional services. So those are some of the options that we're asking you to entertain as you're going through this evaluative process. And what staff is actually suggesting is that we should hold the public hearing and do the exemption for our judge because we believe that, well, we know that the judge is very interested in that. And we believe that his evaluation will show that he's a good candidate for continuing on with you. And so it seems not entirely helpful to go through an RFP process. And what I do know is that in the past, and I wasn't here for this, but I was told this by the people who've gone in the past, when they started calling around for trying to get people to go with an RFP process, every attorney seems to respond that is the current judge still interested? And every time the answer was in the affirmative, then the people would say, well, they respect him enough apparently that they step out and say, I'm not going to be part of the process. So it's almost like the process was self-thwarting. So that's one of the reasons that staff also thinks that if you want to keep a good contractor going, but then also not necessarily do one of these, even if we think he would prevail in an RFP process.
All right, thank you very much. Questions on the staff report? And then I will go to Council President Starr and Councilor Cross, who both did their court observations this year. I gave my report last year. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I give my report, just a couple questions from the staff report. So it says that we can have an evaluation with the judge, obviously in executive session. Have we ever done that?
Well, and I'm sorry, I don't know specifically, but I have heard that that has never had to have happened. So.
Can I ask a clarifying question about that statement? What do you mean had to have happened? Because my understanding is like it can be part of the process. So does it only happen if it has to?
Well, I'll read from the resolution that spells out the process. And what it says is a formal evaluation between the city council and the municipal court judge shall be scheduled. But that's only if the council deems it necessary. So you guys, if you deemed it necessary, then you shall have it.
But define
in exec
necessary.
session,
I mean, I'm not trying to get into dissecting our process, but necessary to me might not be necessary to you. So what does necessary mean? Like he did something bad, we need to have an evaluation? Or
it could be, here's the thing about, so people use exec sessions for evaluation of public officers. And the reason that they do that is because the evaluations themselves sometimes don't always unearth the nicest things about people or their performance. And so it protects this body if you want to have a session, and it protects the good name of the official as well, if you have it behind closed doors. Deeming it necessary doesn't necessarily mean it would be negative, but my understanding is the only time that it gets triggered that you shall schedule and hold an evaluation in executive session would be if this body deemed it necessary. So a plurality of you would have to vote, we want to have an exec session this time. And again, it doesn't mean it could be positive or negative, but I know that the way in which the public meetings law allows for that exemption is because when you're evaluating people's work, sometimes it gets a little unseemly. And so it protects you from, somebody saying you defame me. It protects them from actually, having bad things said about them. Usually if it's all positive, there's no protection for the contractor. And then there's no protection from possible defamation claims. So ideally, if you're just going to be super positive, you don't necessarily have to go into closed session, but you could.
I have a follow-up.
Follow-up?
So the thing that struck me was there's no form for me to fill out. Like I just go, and if I thought it was good, I come back and report that it was good. What I'm encouraging us to think about as a city is a more established process to where we have a documentation that we fill it out. How many cases did you hear, right? We write it down. Were there 2? Were there 3? Were there 5? What was one thing that we liked about it, or 2 things? What were something we could see, as improvement? Were there any questions that you had from the observation? There's nothing structured in what was asked of us as city council. I just think we could probably, as a city, grow up a little bit in our evaluation process.
I would love to help you with that. I could help you also with, you have 2 other direct appointees in your city manager and me as well. We could try to come up with an evaluation form that you all agree on, because it really is your evaluation form of us. So more than happy to help out. And if there's a general consensus, I can start trying to unearth some of those things and dust them off and get them going for you.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. And just for clarification, we do have an adopted process for city manager and city attorney. And I would concur, we have been evolving this review process with the the municipal court judge over time. And when I first started, I sound like the old, back in the day, I hate doing that. But starting the process of actually assigning city councilors to go and do observation was something that started during my tenure because we needed to ensure that we were planning for a check-in. So that was the first step. And I like the idea of having a format, if you will, of, as Mr. Lindsay, as you outlined, for, come and observe with these things in mind and then be prepared to report back out in that format. So thank you for doing that. Human Resources and the Personnel Policy Committee was very involved in creating the current city manager, city attorney process. And that might be a place to start also, Mr. Lindsay, with something for our current judge. But with that, we don't have one established at this point. So with that, I would like to turn to Councilor Cross and Council President Starr to give their reports for this year as they were the ones assigned for 2024.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, I do agree with Shani because yes, as a city and for even the municipal judge to have in his file, for him to know, like, this is in my file. It's not just us uttering words. So I went online and looked up a municipal court judge template. So just to give myself some ideas, and that's kind of where I went. I watched, I think it was about 10 cases. I couldn't stay for the whole thing for about 2.5 hours. And on the highlights on that template I looked at, because I just kind of did the homework for myself, that, you seem to have knowledge and understanding of the law. He was super respectful and educated, and he had an approach to all cases. He was professional, and he had a genuine compassion and caring of the people appearing in the court. I liked that at the end of the case, every case, whether it was when they would be coming back or setting up payments, he was very clear and concise and repeated back and had them repeat back to him. So he really wanted to be clear and let them know, because you felt that he wants them to succeed. Even with a younger gal that had 2 or 3 speeding tickets in the last 12 months, he was like, okay, I really want you to complete this class and this is an opportunity. And then a younger kid that had lost his license, and he offered even a different program. So he went above and beyond to me in the way that he even asked the questions of both the police officers in the room and the ones that were here for the tickets. So I'm a fan, but yes, I did find my own template. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I was sitting there observing my night, which was on a different night, it occurred to me that what I was watching and observing was a real life embodiment of Brene Brown's "clear is kind" kind of mantra about communication. The judge did it with empathy, but firm empathy, and approached everything from a perspective of trying to understand the circumstances and the situation, to then taking it a level and explaining kind of the whys and the hows and the educating. And I will end my comments with just a public service announcement for the city of Keizer, but use your blinkers in the roundabout.
So noted. Thank you very much. And thank you to both of you for doing your due diligence this year. I gave my report last year as I had the opportunity to observe Judge Myers, and my observations absolutely concur with those of Council President Starr and Councilor Cross. So what I'd like to do at this point is ask Council President Starr to put a motion on the table so we can proceed.
I move that the Keizer City Council direct staff to notice a public hearing for the exemption of the solicitation process for the municipal court judge contract.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to notice a public hearing for the exemption of the solicitation process for the municipal court judge contract. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's go on then to item 8E, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign dedication for reserve strip, Marion County tax lot 063 W23DD02000. Mr. Witham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I apologize, there's no address. It's a 1 foot wide strip of land. That's the only identifier. So this is it's a weird deal. They're called reserve strips. They're found, actually, Mr. Lawyer just told me, hey, I just saw another one of those somewhere. They're kind of leftover holdovers from before the city was a city. Marion County would often use reserve strips to control access to public rights of way. In this case, we had a subdivision case for 1326 OPEC Street, which is at the western terminus of OPEC as it comes off of O'Neill. I did put a picture in your guys' packets so you could kind of get a visual, and tried to like circle the little area that you can't really see because it's so small. What's interesting to me is looking at the records, it looks like the house was built in 1977, and that's been its sole means of access the entire time it's been built. So they've been passing over this thing back when the county controlled it. But with the new subdivision proposal that went through the hearing process and received approval in December, the applicant is going to be required to pave OPEC Street out to O'Neill, provide connection through their subdivision out to the other little stub of OPEC that was built in the early 2000s when a subdivision went in to provide the connectivity through the neighborhood. And in going through that approval process, we found, oh, there's this 1 foot reserve strip. So we need to dedicate that and turn it into OPEC Street officially. And dedication doesn't happen at the staff level, it happens at the council level, directing the city manager to do so. So that is the resolution that you have before you tonight. And with that, I'd be happy to answer all of your questions regarding this.
All right. Another Marion County leftover. Thank you so much. Any questions on the staff report? All right, Council President Starr.
Do I have to read the entire tax lot number? Mm-hmm. Great.
For the record, yes.
My favorite tonight. All right, I move that Keizer City Council adopt resolution R2024 authorizing the city manager to sign dedication for reserve strip, Marion County tax lot 063W23DD02000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt resolution R2024 authorizing the city manager to sign dedication for reserve strip, Marion County tax lot 063W23DD02000. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously, and that concludes our administrative action for this evening. It is past 9 o'clock. Are we going to go ahead and push through these last little bits to finish up? All right. Just want to check for needing to take a break. Council President Starr, would you please read tonight's enormous consent calendar?
Item A, approval of February 5th, 2024 regular session minutes.
That's it. Anybody need to pull it? All right, Council President Starr.
I move the Keizer City Council adopt the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. This takes us to other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Brown, does staff have anything additional this evening?
Madam Mayor and Council, I do not have anything additional this evening.
Thank you very much. Council members, anything this evening? Okay. Let's go on then to staff updates. Mr. Brown?
We are planning a shovel, groundbreaking with shovels for the 21st and at 4:30 in the afternoon. And our Representative Mannix invited and our county commissioners and all of you. So, and we will plan a ribbon cutting when the project's done, which is scheduled to be done in August.
And just to clarify,
Council President Starr?
that's at Keizer Rapids Park for the turf field project, yes?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. All right, mark your calendars, March 21st, 4:30 PM, groundbreaking for the turf field project. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Ms. Bissett.
Mayor, yes, we will be sending an invitation, a save the date out tomorrow as well for everyone. I wanted to announce that on November 5th, 2024, we'll be having a general election for positions 1, 2, 3, and the mayor position. And I'll have packets available for candidates on Monday, this coming Monday. I'll also have everything posted on our website. Please note, though, that you cannot file until June 5th, so you'll need to complete some forms if you're interested in running, and I'll have to verify that those forms are okay and approve them before you go collect signatures, so please don't go out and do that until you have written approval to do so. Otherwise, those signatures might be invalid, so. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Councilors, just a reminder that we said goodbye to Sergeant Bamford, who was with us for, I think, 20-plus years, but a total of 30 years in law enforcement on Friday. So that was his last day. He did a great job all the way to the very end. He was a very professional and a great asset to the police department. So he is gone. You met our newest officer tonight, Jesse White, and we were working on with our executive assistant and with HR, getting the announcement made for replacing some of these bodies that are going away. So, yeah, there should be a position open, couple positions open up for us, and hopefully trying to get some people hired on. With that, I have no other really cool information for you.
All right. Cool or not, we'll take it. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Lawyer?
I have nothing tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Witham?
I just have a couple things. I just was notified by the Department of Land Conservation and Development last week that we, hopefully at the next council meeting, I'll have something before council. We're the recipients of a free grant, which is great, no cost to us, and the same exact amount of work I would be doing without getting any money, but it's tied to the scenario planning work that we're doing. The state had kind of a pot of money, and so they're actually giving some of that money through a grant through the different jurisdictions that are participating to help offset some of the staff time, which, like I said, is great because by the state law, I have to do the same exact amount of work that I was going to do. And hey, it helps the city budget a little bit. So that, I think it's like $40,000 max that we can get. But I was like, hey, yeah, I'll take whatever. You give me $5, we'll take it. But, well, hopefully we'll take it. Yeah. Like I said, that should be before council next meeting. I just heard about it. And then the only other thing I do, like personal, my oldest daughter got married last Sunday. Aww. So that was a big deal, big milestone in the Witham household. So anyway, that other than that, that's all.
Congratulations to the father of the bride. That's very exciting. So Council President Starr had a question on the grant.
Did you apply for that? Oh, wait, oops. Did you apply for that?
Even better, no, because to apply for grants, I'm supposed to get council authorization.
Well, I literally. That wasn't even, I just.
Okay, good. I thought maybe I was in trouble.
Like, how did?
No, I think it really was just part of the funding that was coming out of the governor's office to fund all of this work. the LCD contacted me by phone. It's been months back, and they said, hey, we're possibly going to be able to kick some money your way for some of the staff costs. And, I mean, they're paying for the contractors. That's not even a contract with us. And I was like, is there a trick? Like, what? I don't understand. What do we?
Offers free money.
Yeah, what is what? And they're like, no, it really is just a matter of, we feel like it's appropriate to do, and so we kind of earmarked, can we help out, because this is a big lift for everyone. So, yeah, I didn't even apply for it. I just was told, hey, it got approved, and we can give you this much money, but you have to sign this agreement. So I was like, okay.
Congratulations.
So I did nothing. So
Take it.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm still kind of stunned going, the state is offering money to offset local costs. I would like that one in bronze going, please take note, state. Please do offset our local costs when you have projects. They are setting a proper precedent. Well done. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you. I don't have too much substantive things to share, although I will reach into my wallet and say, because I'm this new here, that my cards came today for the City of Keizer City Attorney. I can start handing these out everywhere I shop.
There you go. And we thought that the contract had you here. No, it's the card.
No, still glad to be here. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, good stuff. Council member reports. This time is provided for council members to briefly report items related to our city, and I will start with Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Glad you're able to join us tonight.
I attended the Salem Breakfast with the Chief. Thank you, Police Foundation Breakfast with the Chief at the Convention Center on February 22nd. So thank you to Chief Copeland and Lieutenant Hine to joining me on that day last week. Thank you to Councilor Duran for joining me at the UGM Stop for the One luncheon. Attended a couple of Travel Salem Sports Commission meetings and one on the turf field. Food for thought last week was great, and today attended the Salem Chamber Monthly Forum luncheon. Yep, that's it.
Thank you very much, Councilor Duran.
Well, I did the Keizer Chamber Government Affairs Committee meeting for Councilor Cross on the 21st, and then I did the Planning Commission, and that was, a long way through the strategic plan, but it was some good information hearing from those guys. And of course, I went to the UGM luncheon last week, and a couple other chamber events or meetings. So that was my last 2 weeks.
All right, thank you. Chamber is very busy this time of year. Council President Starr.
I have nothing.
Also a busy family time.
Yes, weddings are busy. That's all I will say.
Yep.
Yes.
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief. On the 22nd, I attended Shannon's retirement party. That was a lot of fun to see people roast him a little bit and see him relax. I think he's looking forward to that. 28th, I attended the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments annual awards dinner with Mayor Clark and with our city manager, Mr. Brown. Congratulations to Marion County for all the great work they did at the Canyon with the water and sewer systems, which they got an award for. Of course, we received an award too. And then the 28th was also the Keizer Community Dinner with a wonderful baked potato bar, 60 volunteer hours and 201 people fed. What a great event, and thank you for all those that make that possible. 1 week left in this year's short session. Watch close, hang on to your wallets. And Wednesday, did I say that out loud?
Hey, you really did.
Wednesday, March 6th is at the View at McNary Golf Course is the No Luncheon. That's like this week. And March 12th, the State of the City with our all-star mayor, Kathy Clark, sponsored by the Chamber. That's 11:45 to 1 on March 12th, again, at the golf course restaurant. And then March 20th, the mayor's conversation with the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association. That one is at 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. And on the 20th is with all the neighborhood associations. I just might.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's all of the neighborhood associations gathering together. So we have one community conversation as a follow-up to the state of the city. They did it last year. It was brilliant. And I'm glad we're doing it again, rather than have me hop from one to another. Just let's all get together and have a great conversation. So I want to appreciate the neighborhood associations for doing this.
Right, I only heard about it in the Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association meeting,
Alright.
because that's the one I go to.
All
And-
right.
And then the last thing, the Winter Wildlife Field Days, March 1 through the 31st. Check the city website for free events throughout the month. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Councilor Husband.
Mazel to the Witham family. That's all I got. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I attended the Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency Board meeting. Discovered that Oregon has the highest unsheltered family rate in the whole country. And so we've got a lot of work to do. The Community Action Agency's mission is to not only try to help people exit poverty, but also to prevent it. And they're very busy in their discussions about that. There was a discussion as to whether or not the Community Action Agency should cite on a letter of amicus opposing the Grants Pass versus Johnson case, which has to do with no camping ordinances and the national Supreme Court decision and so forth. And so anyway, that was an interesting discussion and some really important things to consider there. I also attended the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance executive meeting for Mayor Clark, and always good to kind of get in touch with what they're doing, because they're doing some very important work in our region. And then we have this Community Diversity Engagement Committee coming up this Thursday, and in addition to a work session that we'll have on Monday. So,
All right. Thank you very much. Youth Councilor Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, so it's kind of a big night for performing arts. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. Tomorrow we have a choir concert, the spring choir concert, then also the OSU Band Festival. So all the schools, high schools, going up to or going down to OSU for their festival. And on the 7th, APT, McNary's music program, they're really great. They're releasing their album, doing a release stage show, which will be really interesting. Cool. And then that's about it, apart from another APT rec concert on the 18th. And then, so we just had the announcements of like who won the district solo and ensemble results. And so for state chamber qualifiers, we had McNary Small Percussion Ensemble, first place. McNary Large Percussion Ensemble, first place. McNary Flute Quartet, second alternative, which is good. And state solo qualifiers, Talia was flute first alternate. Keith Kern, I'm not gonna try and butcher any last names here. So trumpet, second alternate. Dougie Howard, viola, first place. William Spots, viola, second alternative. And Atticus Lush, bass, second alternative. And that is all of our performing arts for tonight. Thank you.
That is huge. Congratulations to all those musicians. That's a tremendous dedication. Well done. Thank you so much. Just a couple of things to add before we wrap it up this evening. In reference to the current work of the legislature, Senate Bill 1572, which was just for the West Side Express Service Rail Study. That is one that the City of Keizer has signed on to support. It is currently stuck in Joint Ways and Means Committee. So we'll see if it makes it out before the conclusion of the session. House Bill 4002, the Measure 110 fix is on the governor's desk. So there we have it. Senate Bill 1537B, which is the Housing Production Strategy Bill. It has passed the House and the Senate. I don't know if it has to go to reconciliation or if it's going to the governor's desk, but that is one that has been worked on now for the entire long session, plus this entire short session. I think it's on the -33 amendments. It is complex. I'll put it that way, and we'll be looking to Mr. Witham after it is done and the dust settles to see what impact it will have on us and our planning commission. Each of those does tend to have some additional work. Looking at Councilor Duran, he's going, oh, this is gonna be fun. Just a couple of things. I want to thank Council President Starr for chairing the last meeting while I was on vacation. I appreciate your leadership and your work. I was listening in. And I had an opportunity to host the most recent Coffee with Kathy with Betty Hart from the Fire District, Ramiro Navarro from Chariots, Pastor Dominguez from La Luz de Valle, and Diane Watson from Jamaica Community College Board of Education. They do a great job in sharing information with people in the community on that program, which is on Facebook and KeizerTV.com. Also want to remind people that, one more thing before I go to the upcoming stuff. On last Friday, I had an opportunity to do a program with Adam Brown on KMUC Radio on Willamette Wake Up. So that aired this morning. And I encourage people to go to the website and listen to our conversation and other conversations that are being broadcast about the issues around measures 5 and 50 and how different cities are dealing with the repercussions of that all these years since those were passed in the 90s. So thank you to KMUC for the invitation. Coming up, let's remember the 14th Annual Civic Center Cleanup is going to be on March 16th. Be here by 9 a.m., dress for the weather, and we're going to make this place beautiful like we always do. Another thing coming up is we're going to have a We Talk, that's Women Elected, and that's going to feature Beaverton Mayor Lacey Beatty, who's going to be talking about the use of and communications, especially social media. She is an absolute guru on that subject. Finally, I will also be joining folks from around the community at Read Across America at Weddell Elementary later this week. And one of our favorites for everybody this Saturday night, move your clocks forward once again. Yeah, I know. I hate to share bad news, but yeah, I've yet to have a pet or a child with a reset button. And quite frankly, I don't have one either, but there you have it. All right, that concludes reports for this evening. Agenda input next Monday at March 11th at 6 p.m. We will have a joint work session with the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. On Monday, March 18th at 7 p.m., we will meet in regular session. Then on April 1st, Monday, we'll also meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. And then Monday, April 8th, we will have our joint work session with the neighborhood associations starting at 6 p.m. That is all I have for this evening. Is there anything for the good of the order? All right, thank you all very much. The time is 9:34. We are adjourned.